In this video, I'll show you how to create what-if analysis using variables so that you can extend the dashboard that you have created in the previous session with the what-if use case. This is the sheet that we are going to create. On the left-hand side, we'll create 4 variables with 4 input parameters to put in the interest rate, the number of installment in years for scenario 1, number of years in installment for scenario 2, what's the money budget to service the installment. So by using these 4 variables, we will start to calculate what is the money installment for 30 years and 20 years respectively. And using that, we can actually put them into a trend line together with a table to show what is the money installment for the individual town. From there, we can color code the money installment into those that's within the budget will be in green, those beyond the budget will be in yellow, so that it can provide us with a capability to analyze based on our selection, based on our input parameters, which other town that we can afford based on the number of years of installment. Let's go back to the dashboard that we have created in a previous session. So let's create another sheet for the what-if analysis. And go into the editor mode. So on the editor mode, at the left hand side below, there's a variable button. You can click on this to open up the variable screen. Click on create new. We'll create 4 variables. The first one is vInterest to capture the interest rate. So for definition, we default this to 2.6%, and for the description, we'll put in interest rate. Click at the header to save the variable. So repeat this for the other 3. So for the year of installment, for the first scenario, we'll name it as V year 1. Definition we'll put as 30. Description put in installment in years. Scenario 1. Repeat for V year 2. Definition we'll put it as 20. Installment in years for scenario 2. Last one, we create the budget. So we name it as vBudget. Definition we put it as 1008. And description is the monthly budget. Okay, so this is what we do. We create the 4 variables, we put in some default values. And then we click on close. Next, let's create the 4 variable inputs for the 4 variables that we have created. So go to custom object. Under the dashboard bundle, there's a variable input. Check it out. So go to the right hand side and set the properties for each of them. Under appearance, under variable, we can select which variable to tie this input to. So the first one will be vInterest. We can change the input type from input box into a slider so that we can slide the interest rate. Select the update on drag. And for the values, let's put the minimum as 0, the maximum as 10, and the step as 0.1. So the interest rate will start from 0 all the way to 10%, and every step will be 0.1%. Let's check on the slider label so that we can see the current value that is being selected. Next, go to the general. Under the title, let's put in the title of this input parameter is the interest rate. Okay, and we size the slider accordingly to the top left hand side. Okay, let's repeat the same for the year. So what we can do is to do a copy and paste. Let's name this as installment in years for scenario 1. For the name of the variable, use year 1. The rest remain the same, but for minimum, let's put 10. Maximum, let's put 30. And every step will be 1. So let's do this for year 2 also. And the last one is the budget, so let me just drag it out. For the budget, let's use the input box instead. Okay, and this forms the 4 parameters for the variables that we'll be using. Next, we'll put in the money installment calculation. The money installment calculation is based on the following formula, which is gotten from this website. So I came across this website on how to calculate the EMI on your loan. So if I scroll down, using Excel is using this formula. But this formula can be translated into this, where P stands for the loan amount or the principal, R is the interest rate, and N is the number of money installment. So what I've done here is to translate the formula into the calculation that we'll be using. So for the principal, I'm assuming the average resale price multiplied by 0.8 because of a deposit of 20%, which is the upfront payment. R will be the interest rate, so I'll be using a vInterest divided by 12 multiplied by 100. And I'll take the net N as the number of money installment. I'll use fee year 1 multiplied by 12. Let's go into the master item to create this formula. So under master items, under measures, click on create new. Under the name, put in monthly installment for scenario 1. Under the expression, paste the formula and make sure that the formula is correct. So you can go into the expression editor, check the status of the formula is okay. So one thing to note is make sure that the variable used and the master item used are pertaining the same to what you're actually using. So vInterest, v year 1, and also the average resale price should be the same as what you have named when you create the average resale price master item. For the label expression, you can put in a string, money installment, or we can actually add in the number of years in the scenario 1. So what we can do is, after we put in the string, you can put in an %, followed by the variable name, which is fee year 1, %, code, and space, then we can put in the years. Okay, so the label itself will actually change depending on the number of years you have selected. We will actually see it in a while. And for the number formatting, we can change it to money. And let's create this master item. Okay, let's do a duplicate for scenario 2. So what we can do is we can right click and do a duplicate. And we can select the second one and modify it for year 2. So for scenario, change it to 2. Under the expression, look up for all the year 1 and change it to year 2. Another way to check whether your formula is correct is you look at the color coding. For master item is dark blue. For variable is pink. So your vInterest VA2 is pink. So if you can see it's white, means that it's actually not correct. So you have to make sure that your variable, especially VA2, is in pink. Okay, same thing for the label. We can change it to VA2, apply, and save. So once we have done the two master items, we can drag them out. And resize accordingly. So you can see that now I can see that the label is money installment for 30 years. And the second one is money installment for 20 years. Let's create a trend line of average resale price. So let's drag out the average resale price. Drag out the month to form a trend line. Next, we'll create a table with the town, average resale price, and the money installment for both scenarios. Change it to a table. So now we can compare the town, what is the average resale price, and for both scenarios, what is the money installment. Let's remove the zero value row by unchecking the chart suggestion. Turn on the properties, go to add-ons, data handling, and uncheck this include zero values. Next, we want to color code the money installment. If the money installment falls below the budget, let's make it to green. If not, let's change it to yellow. Click on data. Click on data and select the column for scenario 1. Click on the background color expression. You want to change the background of the cell if the condition is met. So put in an if statement. If my monthly installment for scenario 1 is smaller than my vBudget, comma, set it to green, put a open and close bracket, comma, if not, I put it as yellow. And close the whole if statement. So copy this to be used for scenario 2. Click on apply. And repeat the same thing for scenario 2. And apply. And this is all we need to do. Click on done editing and we can start to do our selection. So earlier on we are actually using executive. Let's go back to executive, flag type. So based on executive flag type, based on my scenario 1 30 years, scenario 2 20 years, and my interest rate of 2.6 and my budget of 1,008, my money installment for 30 years is around 2,000 and for 20 years is around 2,007. And the only town that is available for me for 30 years is Choa Chu Kang. Okay, let's do the sort on this. And you can actually see that there are actually 4 of them. So let's play around with the different parameters. So for example, let's take a personal loan from a bank, and if they can actually afford a lower interest rate. So let's assume that the interest rate is 1.6. So you can actually see that the town will actually change accordingly. So now is I have more than just now the 4 towns that is available for money installment of 30 years. What if I want to actually change my money installment for 25 years also. So I have 25 years, I have 30 years, I can actually see that I have more towns that's available even for 25 years. So let's change back to 2.6. Alternative is to actually increase the budget. So for 1008, I can actually afford Sembawang for 25 years. But how about if I increase my budget to 2005? Then from there you can actually see that most of my towns here is available for me to actually select. Some of the towns that is actually not available will be highlighted in yellow. So this is a very useful extension of the existing dashboard that you have created by putting in some what if scenario. So you can put in some parameters to give it the input. Then from there you can calculate the monthly installment. Then from there you can actually determine whether this particular unit that you're actually looking for, does it actually fit your financial capability in terms of your monthly repayment budget. And this concludes the video.